Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk right here on OG Sports TV. This week we're talking about the state of the 2021 NFC East. Let's get right into it. We're going to start this video with none other than the Washington football team, who won the NFC East last year at a 7-9 record. It was probably the worst division in football, but Washington comes into this season looking strong, looking reloaded, and they might be the favorite to win this division again. Like, it's going to be them and the Cowboys, I believe, that are the favorites to win this division and make the playoffs. Washington looks primed to improve from their 7-win record last year, and one of the reasons why is that they added onto an already elite defense. And so what they have to hope for, because in this league nowadays, when you have a top defense one year, most of the time it will regress a little bit back to earth the next year. But they're doing everything to make sure that doesn't happen this year. They added Jamin Davis in the first round. They got Kendall Fuller back. So this team looks ready. This team looks loaded. And if they keep a top 10 defense this year, they added Ryan Fitzpatrick as a quarterback, quite the gunslinger he's going to be. They have a really exciting team. It looks promising for them. They should make the playoffs. The problem will be is that when you have a quarterback like Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's gonna have such high highs, and then he's gonna have a game with 4 interceptions, which may be a little bit of an exaggeration, but you understand the point. He's a very roller coaster type of quarterback, and the problem with that is Washington is a roller coaster type of team. They have playmakers all over the team. This is the most exciting time it's probably been to be a Washington fan in quite a while. They have playmakers everywhere, all over the defense. They have really I believe underrated players on offense, other than Terry McLaurin, which everyone knows about. But they have really exciting guys on offense, and the sky's the limit for them. Honestly, they're not. I don't think they can compete for a Super Bowl, but I don't think any of these teams in the division can compete for a Super Bowl. But I think Washington is one of those teams that you don't want to play against if it's in a wild card round, or if it's like you have to get through on the road, like Tampa did last year. Tampa won the Super Bowl, and Washington at 7-9 gave them fits on the road. So this is the type of team that if they can beat anybody, but they're hot at the right time. So a problem for Washington will be is that since they won a division last year, they have a really tough schedule going into this year. 5 of these games I handpicked. Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Seattle, the Chargers, and Green Bay. That's what happens when you win a division. You get a first place schedule, and that's a tough onslaught of games, but will work in their favor as 4 of those 5 games are at home. So I think it looks pretty good for Washington going forward. I think smart money has them winning the division. I'm slightly biased. I think it's a 2-team race, but they certainly are capable. They certainly have everything going for them. One of the biggest things, like I've said already, is they just gotta hope that defense doesn't regress. On to the next team. Moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, clearly my favorite team. It was a tough year last year for the Cowboys. Finished 6-10, which honestly 6 wins when you lose your franchise quarterback, and the state of that defense last year. Personally think that's an achievement. Andy Dalton helped a lot, and it just shows you the playmakers. Dallas has a really good offense. I think obviously, and this is no secret, the talking point and the key part of how they're going to compete this year is they have to improve the defense. And we've seen them go defense this year. The first round, they drafted Micah Parsons, 12th overall, which was really a head-scratching pick. Not because they went defense, but because they traded back with the Eagles, of all teams. And they put the Eagles in position to draft a quarterback. And yeah, they have Jalen Hurts ready to start, looking like he's going to start this year, but Justin Fields was there, and you can't be sure like the Eagles aren't going to take quarterback there. There's no with the way that they've handled their quarterback situation, you don't know what they're going to do. And I believe that trading back with them to allow them to put them in that position was a really risky move by the Cowboys. Like, you almost gave your division rival a inside path to a franchise quarterback. So they didn't end up doing that. They ended up taking Devontae Smith. But I think what that tells you is they panicked. 8 and 9 in the draft. The cornerbacks Pat Surtain and J.C. Horn went back to back right in front of the Cowboys, who were slated at 10. And I believe that they thought they were going to get at least one of those guys. They were going to have an opportunity to take one of those guys. And when they went back to back in front of them, they panicked. So they traded back with the Eagles 2 picks, which I would not have done. But they did, and the Eagles didn't take Fields, thank God. But they take Devontae Smith, fine. And the Cowboys take Micah Parsons, who may be the best defensive player in the draft, but he's an off-ball linebacker. And in recent history, the Cowboys don't pick linebackers high very well. So, and that doesn't even take into account the off-the-field scandal that Michael Parsons had. He was allegedly involved in some kind of hazing at Penn State. So that's wonderful. That decision was a head scratcher. It was confusing, but who knows? Lane Vander can't stay on the field. Jalen Smith needs to get better, and Sean Lee just retired. So taking another linebacker, I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. And Michael Parsons is a really talented player. So let's hope that the off the field stuff is either not true or done with, and let's hope he turns into a good player. But other than that, they had a really bad draft in general. It just seems like they never recovered from getting the corners taken from them in the first round. So, but other than that, looking forward to this year. Dak is healthy, so that's going to work wonders for them. It was supposed to be about a 6-month injury. He was supposed to be fully recovered in April. It's May now, so he should be good to go by the time the season starts in September. And the hiring of Dan Quinn as the defensive coordinator, he needs to get this defense to be at least league average. If the Cowboys have an elite offense, what they're capable of with Dak healthy and their weapons, and an average defense, that's good enough to win the division. That's good enough to compete. Will they win the Super Bowl? No, most likely. No, I don't think so. But they can win the division. They can make the playoffs, and they can be relevant. They're not going to be 6-10. The Cowboys should not be 6-10 with the roster that they have. Even with just the offense that they have, they should not be 6-10. So, barring injury, if Dak is back to himself, which is a big question mark with any season-ending injury, even though he should be 100% by now. They should be able to compete with Washington for this division, and I think it's going to be a two team race. So next up is the New York Giants, who've had a interesting offseason to say the least. I don't think we're talking about them very much in this point in time, but I'm intrigued by what they're doing, and even though I don't think that they will be very good next year for one reason, which I'll get to. But so let's start with the draft. They took Kadarius Toney in the first round. They traded back with the Bears, who ended up taking Justin Fields at 11. And I believe that a primary motive for this was, one, the return they got from the Bears, which was pretty good. It was probably not the best they could have gotten, but it was pretty good. And they got a first next year, and they got a couple other picks. But I believe that they traded back mostly because the Eagles jumped in front of them in the trade that I just talked about with the Cowboys. The Eagles jumped in front of them at 10 to take Devontae Smith, who a lot of people thought that the Giants were looking at 11. So they trade back to 20, I believe it was, and they take Kadarius Toney, who is a nice player from Florida, wide receiver, who, no disrespect to Toney, I think he's Devontae Smith light. Like, he's that same type of mold of player, just maybe a tier below. But very nice player, first round caliber. It's just interesting that that's where they go after Devontae Smith is gone, considering the offense that they have already. And I just thought maybe they would upgrade an already underrated defense, but whatever. I can't help but think and this is how I'm gonna lead into what is the most important part of the Giants this year. I can't help but think they're gonna regret not taking Justin Fields, and the reason is this: Daniel Jones. This is a make or break year for Daniel Jones. So I understand them wanting to give him their support in what is a defining year for his career. But I cannot help but think we're going to look at this draft 3 years from now and see Justin Fields tearing it up, even though Chicago is kind of a interesting landing spot for him. Justin Fields tearing it up and Daniel Jones being a backup somewhere, like the Mr. Trubisky role. So Mr. Trubisky is now a backup in Buffalo. Like I cannot help but think that that's what we're going to be talking about in a couple of years. And the reason why is just Daniel Jones cannot hold on to the ball. Listen to this. He has 29 fumbles in 27 career games and 22 interceptions. That is 51 turnovers in 27 career games. That is unbelievable. And even as a fan of a division rival, I know every time we play the Giants that there's a good chance we're going to get a turnover or two because Daniel Jones can't hold on to the ball. But looking at that number, even I'm surprised. That is a hell of a lot of turnovers for a guy that's been in the league for a handful of years. That is unbelievable. And that is what's going to hold them back. No matter how good of a defense they have, which is very underrated. It's a nice defense. And last year when I thought their defense was going to be pretty bad, it turned out to be much better than expected. It turned out to be kind of above average, low key. Saquon comes back, which is huge. They added Adoree Jackson on defense. They added Kenny Golladay in free agency, really nice X wide receiver for them. Daniel Jones has no excuses not to put it together this year. Joe Judge seems like a great guy to play for. Seems like they love him there. They have everything. They've built a very nice supporting cast around Daniel Jones. The only thing he needs to go do is not turn it over. And we haven't seen anything so far to suggest that he's capable of doing that. So until Daniel Jones shows some sort of ball protection, until he's not throwing 22 picks and not fumbling the ball 30 times, they're not going to be able to compete. They're not going to be able to compete. No matter how good that defense is. Think about Jameis Winston in Tampa. The foundation was already laid for them to win. Tom Brady comes in, they win immediately. The foundation was already laid, and no matter how good that defense was in Jameis's last year, when you're throwing 30 interceptions, they're always going to be in short fields. It doesn't matter. You're going to get outscored. That's how I feel about the Giants. No matter how good that defense is, and it's not as good as Tampa's was that year, but it's still pretty good. It's good enough for them to win if they have competent quarterback play, and they don't at this point. So I can't help but think, and I'm going to say this again, I can't help but think they're going to look back at this in a couple of years and wish that they took Justin Fields when they had the chance. He was there for them. He was sitting right there, and they traded with the Bears who took him. And it's just Daniel Jones, they are betting the house on Daniel Jones, and he has to make sure that investment is sound. Moving on. Last and definitely least, the Philadelphia Eagles. Listen, it was rough for the Eagles last year. They were 4-11-1, and it seems to be a franchise in disarray, which is wild because they just won a Super Bowl like 5 minutes ago. So it's crazy to see that there's so many things different about the Eagles. Doug Peterson is gone. Carson Wentz is traded. He's in Indianapolis. Jalen Hurts is now their starting quarterback, it seems to be. And the roster is just depleted. And it seems like they have so many guys hurt every single year. And it's just body blow for the Eagles. And it doesn't look like they got much better this offseason. It really doesn't. They should be fully committing to this rebuild. They hired a head coach in Nick Sirianni, who I don't know much about. I don't think anyone knows much about him. He hasn't inspired much confidence in the press conferences that I've seen and the things that he said publicly. Some of it is weird. He's talking about rock, paper, scissors being an indicator for guys' competitiveness. He's talking about weird stuff. But so who knows how that's going to be. Um, their draft this year, they traded up with the Cowboys from 12 to 10 to get Devontae Smith in front of the Giants, which fine. Wide receiver's been a problem for them recently, but you would think when you're committing this rebuild, wide receiver isn't the thing that you're prioritizing. You're prioritizing the premium blue chip positions, which is quarterback, offensive line, mainly left tackle, edge rusher, corner. Like, these things are the most important building blocks and your foundations to creating a winning team in the future. And you go and draft a 160-pound wide receiver, Heisman or not. Like, this is what you do. Like, I understand he's a shiny new toy. He just won a Heisman. He's an incredible player, but he's a wide receiver, and you're rebuilding. Like, you draft a player like this when you're one step away, and you're just adding another weapon on one, and when it's already a good team ready to compete. Like, Devontae Smith should be a complementary piece on a winning team. That is not what this is. It's not a winning team. This is a really bad team. This is going to be a team that finishes in last place for the second straight year. They didn't address the defense, and the defense is going to be terrible. They're going to lose a lot of games because of it, and it's going to really be a net negative on how Jalen Hurts progresses, because he's always going to be trying to come back. He's barely ever going to play with a lead. And yay, you got Devontae Smith. Congratulations. But it's gonna be really tough for them, and I think they're gonna be right back in the mix to take a quarterback next year. So maybe you should have taken Justin Fields. I'm not quite sure, but I've always said that the draft and free agency is one of the few times that we get to see how teams are thinking, because we can always, people like me, people in the media can always guess what teams feel and how they're going to be and what they're going to do. But when they actually do things in the draft, when they sign players in free agency, it gives you a window on how they feel about their team and how they feel about their status moving forward. Like, certain picks can tell you how, if teams think they're ready to compete or not. So Devontae Smith, do they think they can compete in this division? If so, they're misguided. This is not a great division, but come on, guys. So what are we doing here? This season, if they get anything out of this season at all, it's going to be because Jalen Hurts becomes a magician. He becomes a magic man and carries them. Well, can that happen? Is he capable of that? Sure, he's a great player, but he doesn't have any. They have a bad roster, and it's just doesn't look good for the Eagles moving forward. They're probably going to finish in last place, which is such a tremendous free fall from grace because they just won the Super Bowl. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching another one. Next week I'll be back with another division preview video, most likely the NFC South. We'll talk about the defending champ Bucks, the Falcons, how they got better, the Panthers, where they're going to go, and how the Saints move on into life without Drew Brees. Anyway, see you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Like if you'd like, subscribe if you're new. And remember, be kind to someone today. That's real talk.